Welcome to Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers, hosted by Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Hey everybody, this is Jody.
And this is Candace.
And today we are talking the do's and don'ts of writing magic. Now, I was really excited to do this episode because this is one of my favorite topics.
Yes, I was nervous. I'll be honest. I mean, well, I love magic. I do, but I didn't know how to talk about it. So, yeah, go ahead.
So, like, my thinking is March kind of has this feeling of magic about it. And I don't know if it's just St. Patrick's Day and people believing in leprechauns and the fae and, you know, gold under rainbows and lucky charms. Like, it feels like there's a little bit of magic around March. It's magical March. Sure.
Oh, really?
No. But I figured this is a good time to talk about it because we haven't talked about it yet. So I made myself an excuse. So like in fantasy books or books with fantastic elements, like it's this presence of magic that elevates the story from interesting to amazing. And fantasy readers really crave this touch of the mystical and the unusual. And so what I want to do to kick off this discussion is I want us each to talk about our favorite magic systems from books we've read.
Okay. Well, there's a couple that immediately I think of. And the first one I got to say is Mistborn. I think Sanderson's, I was just really impressed with the way that the Mistborn magic is figured out, you know, with the different burnings of, let me look at my notes. I think I actually wrote it down here. Let's see. There's different metals to achieve different specific magic. And there's this thing, a concept called burning. So you ingest the specific metal and you burn it, and I forgot what it's called. Allomancy? Yes. Allomancy. And there, depending on the different metal is what kind of magic you use. And I think that just has a lot of brain work to it that I was so impressed with. And it was extremely, I got it. I totally understood what was happening, and it was very consistent. And so it just blew my mind for that one that I can think of right off the top of my head. And then I loved Strange the Dreamer magic.
Ooh, that is an amazing one.
It doesn't really have this system beyond these people. These kids have a specific magic tied to them. But I was stunned by how powerful each magic was with the specific character. And I gotta say props to V.E. Schwab's, like A Fragile Threads of Power. The magic in that is beautiful. So cool. Such a cool idea of these little threads of magic that weave through things. So there are certain magics that some things can have more magic because they have more threads there and different colors. Oh my gosh. I could go on forever. I'm going to stop there.
There's a lot of really good magic systems out there, and I think you've hit on some of my very favorites.
Yeah.
The one that I wanted to bring up was the original magic from Elantris. So we're going to bring in a Brandon Sanderson again because he is the master. He just
has
of
really
technical
clean
magic
systems.
Absolutely. They're very clearly defined. There's always an origin. There's always a cost. All of my big ticket items when it comes to magic, he likes to check all those boxes. So I loved really how the Elantris magic system worked because it was rooted in the world itself in a way that was really interesting and new.
Okay. How does it work? I didn't read Elantris, so I don't know.
So the magic of Elantris is really interesting because it's deeply rooted into the world itself. And the way they perform it is they draw these different aeons, like that's what they call them. They're symbols. And each of them have a different effect. And the power comes from what they call the cognitive realm. So you already can see it's very complicated and it's very technical and it's very much a learned thing.
Do they draw it in the air? Is that
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Or like in the sand, or I don't know.
I want to say like the symbols appear in the air as they draw them.
Okay. That seems very Final Fantasy.
But that is something that does come up quite a bit. But the reason that it's super interesting and why it stuck with me is that the whole story pivots on figuring out what has gone wrong with this magic and why these people are affected the way they are.
Oh, cool.
So it's a very cool story.
Awesome. Okay. What are we talking about now? The don'ts?
I thought we'd talk about the don'ts first before doing the do's.
You say the don'ts of good magic. Wouldn't that be bad magic?
I would say it's just magic done badly.
Magic done badly. Okay. Very good. Okay,
so
you can go first.
So the first one that came to my mind of a don't when you're making a magic system is try not to create something new every time you need to solve a problem. Like a new magical solution for every problem.
Yes. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. If magic solves everything, it takes away from the strength of the characters and their decision-making power.
Yes.
And I think that lowers the tension because then there's this expectation that, oh, here's a problem.
Everything can be solved.
They're going to just throw some new magic at it and poof, it's better. And that is a big pet peeve of mine.
Because the readers are smart. We catch on to things. You know, I don't like it when it's solved easily. I got into some trouble with a friend of mine because I said that it just felt too easy for Dobby to come in for the house elf magic to be, omniscient. And I didn't like how Dobby just came in and saved the day when I felt that there could have been. I mean, I do like the fact that Dobby came in, saved Harry and everybody, and took them away. That's great. That was really awesome. And that he sacrificed his life. I mean, salutes to Dobby. But I just didn't like how the house elf magic is written because it just seems too convenient.
It is very
when
convenient.
Everyone else has to work so hard for it. And these house elves, I guess, are just the most powerful beings in the entire Potterverse. Just too simple. It didn't like it as much, that's all.
It didn't feel like it had enough structure to it for us to understand
it just
if it meant anything for these house elves to do that.
Yeah, there wasn't a cost. It was just, I guess their slavery.
One could say that is the cost.
Yeah, that you keep the most powerful things down.
They're beholden to the house that they're attached to.
Yeah, I guess that does work. But anyway, too convenient for me.
Right. What's your first don't?
I don't think somebody should write blindly. That's all. When you think of a magic and you just start to write this magic and not have a good concept for it before you start writing it, because it can get very convoluted and not be structured well. And then all of a sudden, if you don't have a resolution to a problem that you created, then you need to, then you just making it up as it goes is just problematic.
Oh yeah.
So I feel that people just should be prepared. Come up with the magic system, with the rules, with the gains and losses, so that when you are writing, then you're prepared. I would say, and I've had to do this, that a spreadsheet is a really smart idea.
You and your spreadsheets.
Right? It's a really great idea because you say that you're writing book 3 and you do not remember exactly the magic that this one person has. So you have to go back to your spreadsheet that you created when you first started this. So you can remember the spell or remember the specific incantation or whatever. So it's just a good resource. It's always a good resource to have that when you first start doing magic. So when you create magic systems, do you create a grid? Or
I've learned from my mistakes and now I'm doing better at figuring it out before diving in because I didn't have a very clear idea of my rules and what the limitations were going in. And so whenever I'm just like, I want to have some cool magic. Oh, what can they do? And then I had to wrap the system around it afterwards. And it took far longer to do it that way than to have it figured out beforehand. Because I kept on being like, oh, and they make a symbol in the air. And then I have to stop writing like, what does the symbol look like?
Yeah.
And then, crap, what did I do for the last one? I can't remember.
There's a lot of prep work when you are writing. I get excited about just the creative aspect of something and I'll start to write a little bit, but then I have to go and just dump into exactly what I need the magic to do. What it's exactly meant for. And I did have to, when, as a baby writer and you're first starting a novel and you don't know how exactly to write, you do like to just write into the dark. But it's better to go back and do all the prep work so that things are so much easier for you later on. Anyway, that's mine. Don't write blindly.
Completely agree with that. My next one is that your magic needs to have limits. needs to be clearly enough defined that you know what's possible and what's not possible in any given moment. As a writer, your reader might not know, but you need to know.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And I think we did harp on this a little bit because Dobby, we didn't know. And it made it so it was hard to predict. Was it special what he did? Or was it hard for him?
Yeah, it's a good point. Would you put Gandalf in this category too?
Gandalf doesn't have defined magic, so he's definitely on this very soft magic side of the scale. And most of our notes are on technical magic today.
Well,
I should probably
sort of, because I like softer systems. I mean, that's what I gravitate to anyway. So I was just curious. Yeah, like maybe I guess Dumbledore and Gandalf in my brain kind of coincide, that they're just super have the knowledge of the universe in their brains, and their magic, it's easily, snapped at their fingertips. So, but I guess, Dumbledore did die. Oh, so did Gandalf. I mean, here we are.
Right.
Spoiler, these wizards died.
Gandalf didn't die, though.
He came back. Reborn. Yeah. Okay, so the next one I came up with is just be careful that your magic is not derivative, cliche, or borrowed. So
fair.
Because we are all influenced by magic. Like, I can think of so many authors that I envy with what they've created. Like Brandon Sanderson's, the Mistborn magic was just blew me away. And I wish that I had thought of it. Does that mean that I should go and create a magic system with metals? I don't think so.
No.
I need to create something that is my own. I don't think that there's any harm in understanding where certain people's ideas of magic came from and being influenced by them, but you should not borrow anyone's magic for sure. It should be yours alone, so that when somebody does a podcast and they're like, what kind of magic do you like? And they mention us, that's what I want. That's what I'm going for. So you want a different kind of magic. So yeah, that's all. Here we are.
All right. We are now going to break into some of the things that are really good to consider when working with a magic system or writing magic. And I have Candy kicking this one off.
I love it when the magic makes sense, right? You mentioned that for sure. Okay, so I think that I was very impressed with the research that went into Harry Potter when it came to the specific spells, because they all have some kind of root in like a Latin root, or it can be like traced back to mythology. And that made sense to me because I understood it. Like if I know this different mythology or these different Latin roots, like I totally got Nox because that means night. So when you, or lumos, is like illumination, you make things bright. I got that. That made total sense. So that I appreciated all of that work that she went into to create all those different spells that made logical sense. So
absolutely. One of my big do's is that your magic needs to stay consistent with itself and the way you use it. And this kind of is a follow-up on the other one, but you do need to be very clear on what it can and cannot do. And we're going to keep coming back to that because that's one of the key things that a baby writer can get themselves in trouble for, is not having that defined. But what's really cool about this is it helps you raise the stakes and raise the tension, because if people are like, oh, they clearly can't solve this problem with the skills of magic that we know they have, what are they going to do? Mm-hmm. Like that's the moment we want. We really want them to be pitted against things where we're like, how on earth are they going to get through this?
Yeah.
How are they going to solve this? Because clearly the magic's not there. They're going to have to use something else. And so that's what's cool.
No, I like that. I wanted to mention that I like it when it's on the same vein. I like it when there's flaws. Like, I love flood magic. I want to bring up Harry Dresden. Have you read any of those?
Only a handful.
Okay, Jim Butcher, Harry Dresden. I'm sure you get this, that technology doesn't work around him because he's magic. So there's consistently something that breaks. Things aren't convenient. He can't drive his car for very long because it breaks down because of the technology. He can't be around technology. Or he can't use lights. He has to use candles. Things like that. I really found that entertaining, knowing that this magic that he carried had those specific flaws, that you can and cannot do that. So Yeah. I think that something I point out, not just magic, but in general writing, that sometimes in our contemporary life, things become very, convenient. Like you can locate where people are and you have their cell phone. You can just call people anytime. When let's go back to the, 1990s when you couldn't do all that. And so either set your setting there or make sure that your technology is broken and somehow, it's the same kind of, it's in the same vein. I promise. I probably squirreled really badly there, but it's the same thing that with Harry, he can't use anything modern at all. It all has to be old world stuff, which is so much fun to feel this, the old school wizardry in modern times. So that's where hopefully that's circled.
Gotcha.
Make
it quirky.
Yeah, there you go.
Give your magic a weird quirk.
What about you?
So the last one that I feel is really important is that your magic should be fundamentally interesting. It should be something that people are like, ooh, I would love to see more of this, or I would love to understand more of this.
Or that you feel that you already have. Have you ever felt like that? Yeah. Where you read magic and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can feel this magic. It's so beautiful and it's so ethereal, and I can just, sure, I'm a wizard. I can go and do all these things with my little magic wand. And it feels real,
Absolutely. I think it should be beautiful. I think like this is a wonderful opportunity to create that feeling of wonder and that feeling of this is something different and unexpected in a way that's stunning. So magic should be interesting and beautiful as well.
I felt that I'll bring up Laini Taylor's Strange the Dreamer again, because the character that I was most frightened of, but I felt had the most beautiful magic, was the character, our main character. I forgot her name, but she...
Was it the moth lady?
Yeah, she screams moths out of her mouth. Now, if you know me, I am terrified of moths. Absolutely. And so this was frightening to me, but these moths can land on your shoulder and then it shows their dreams to her. And I couldn't get over how amazing and beautiful that was. Just this fact of this beautiful moth landing on somebody's shoulder and then you'd be able to get into the dreams. Oh, geez. I can't get over
cool
it.
Magic. And it was so pretty.
Get over it. So beautiful.
All the different magic that came out of that book was all very, very pretty.
Cool. I sure hope everyone's getting our book recommendations here, because we're a little geeky on this magic.
We do like what we like. So I think this is a brilliant opportunity for us to be able to discuss a little bit about the magic systems that we created just for fun.
Sure.
And we've heard each other's spiel on this magic so many times now. So it's really weird giving it to a different audience.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Okay, tell me about yours.
Well, I really like technical magic. I love a lot of rules. And of course, that came out in my do's and don'ts. They're all like rule-based.
Yeah, and mine are not.
Surprise! So in the Shadow Barrier trilogy, there's very technical magic and there's specific rules and there's costs. So like it's very painful to use and it also costs energy. If you use too much, you can kill yourself by accidentally using too much of the magic. And it's also symbol-based. Like they have to form the symbols in the air, and that's a mental focus thing that they have to master. And if you don't master, bad things can happen.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And there's it's parsed out into 5 different skill sets, but they all have to do with manipulating matter. So like our healers can heal matter and purify it, like put things together, and like the guardians can make things stronger or weaker, and the travelers can move things, and the benders can change things, and the seekers can find things. And so all of the magic is grouped into influencing matter in a very specific way.
That's cool.
It was fun. It was fun to figure it out. And it was also fun to create problems that they could use those strengths, but none of the story revolves around the magic at all.
Wow. That's really cool. I'll have to, like, do you have a pentagram or something?
A pentagram of magic. No. I do have blog posts.
I don't know. Is that, yeah.
On my website.
Okay. So my magic is super different, and it is soft magic. I didn't really go through the different magic levels. All I did was base it on radiation. So every year in my real job, I have to go to radiation safety training and learn all about these different types of radiation. And that is really the nucleus of how my magic system started, is this radiation magic, like these different stones that held different magics. They're all different elemental powers within the world. But if you touch this, then it's going to stain you, is what I called it, is staining your soul. So depending on how strong the magic was, is how strong your magic is. So that was one of the things that the people that are the protectors of these stones, they're actually bound to them. So if they are removed from these stones, they're going to die, basically. And that was a fun problem to solve. That's all I have to say about that. The other thing that I found that I started doing was incorporating how you harness it differently depending on your gender. So with males, if they had that magic, they had to kind of power it out and harness it, where females had to talk to it, befriend it, and then it would do whatever it needed to do, or find whatever it needed to find, that kind of stuff. And guys, I wrote this back in 2006. It's not anything. I feel bad now, that with our gender fluidity and how specific this magic was, but I think it's still relevant to the story and to however you identify. How about that?
All right.
All
right. I think this has been a fun conversation today. It's been a little bit here and there, but
it's a good conversation.
I mean,
that's what I like to do, is these conversations.
So I hope we didn't make it sound like making a magic system should be something that's really daunting or something that should be really hard. I think it's something that you need to be very thoughtful about in figuring out the ideas that your magic will be rooted in. The most awesome ideas can come from very practical origins, like all of the what if questions that you can ask yourself as you go about your day. Like, what if I had a fairy that would fetch my mail? Like something simple. What if a dragon was living in my sewer line? Like, it can be playful, it can be silly. With enough of these what if questions, you're certain to stumble on something that's going to excite you, that you're like, oh, that's my idea. And that's how I'm going to make something interesting that no one's ever seen before, that also just works really well.
Mm-hmm. And this is also another, I don't want to say a separation between us, because you are very analytical and I am a free spirit. So I'm like, have fun, guys. Have fun when creating your magic. And I'll say, just make me envious. If you can make me envious of your magic, I'm a fan forever. And that's your goal, is to make me a fan, because I live and breathe being a fan, and I promote everybody's stuff and if I love it. So make me envious, guys.
You heard it here first. If you make a cool magic system, we want to hear about it. Find us on one of the places we exist, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
A super huge thank you for everyone for listening. Next week, we're talking about nonfiction books that excite us.
That's right.
Especially ones that influence our creativity.
Yeah, it's we like to talk books on the fives, so it'll be our episode 35, and yeah, we're going to talk some books. It's going to be great.
All right. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And remember, we have a Patreon and a Buy Us a Coffee. If you heard anything that you're like, oh, that helps so much, make sure to tip your waitress.
Let us know. You're so cute.
All right. This has been fun.
Thank you for listening to the Squirrel Podcast for the Distracted Writer with Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Please like and subscribe to our podcast for updates and new episodes, and find more information at our website, squirrelpodcast.com. Stay distracted, everyone.
And we are making normal noise.
Normal noise.
I like normal noise.
Up and down normal noise.
Okay. It's so weird not having the music to listen to this time. It's throwing me off my game.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we're good.